Do you think that audiences are scared of seeing characters of Indigenous women who are a bit more passionate or a bit more forthright?
No, not at all. Like, the opposite of that. I mean, I wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for audiences wanting to watch the work that I create, or, you know, I wouldn't sell tickets, I wouldn't have a job.
Wouldn't be invited out to dinner.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be here.
Wouldn't be here right now. You know, like, I think we're all a testament to the fact that there are people who, not only to what we do, but also just that there are people who are wanting to listen. And it's because I think Aboriginal stories appeal to non-Aboriginal communities as much as they do to Aboriginal people. There's this saying that it says, the further away you are from white, the more trouble you are. And to be an Aboriginal person in this country is to be as far away from white as you can possibly be. And so I think that's the power of working within the Aboriginal canon and being an artist who is Aboriginal, is that you get to be able to create work that appeals to on the extreme, to all of the shades of grey within there. I think what happens though when we look at these, it was a really great point you made, Sally, about, you know, having ownership over stories and this authenticity, is that as, you know, as a writer, like, sometimes you're creating these characters and these stories and you find that, you know, those who are on that real extreme side of white there, you know, usually like white guys, have a really hard time trusting what you have to say. They just don't trust you because they don't know you. They don't know what that point of view is. They don't know what the humour is. And so I think that also plays into this idea of being the perfect, you know, if you're not perfect, you're a problem, is that if they can't understand you, then you're a problem. And so stuff gets pushed into these things, or they want you to, these ideas of what they understand.
Sally, is it hard to bring decision makers to the table when it comes to making content about or for Indigenous women?
Can be. It's getting easier, I've got to say, but, you know, bringing something to life like Red for Now was not easy, but you have to have support from above. Like, you have to have the support of the leaders in an organisation, like the board, like Kim Dalton, who was here at the time. But I think, for me, I've always been trusted to make those decisions and trusted to go, this is a great script. You might not understand it, because the people I have to get approval from to get that show commissioned are all white people sitting around the table. And thank God I've had a level of trust that they go, I don't quite get this, but I go, and I say, this is amazing, we have to make it. And there is a level of trust. But then there's always that, yeah, but will anyone watch it? So there has been in the past that perception that Aboriginal shows don't rate.
But that's also because a lot of the shows haven't been made by us.
That's correct.
You know, so you see this history of really boring filmmaking and really depressing filmmaking. It's not made by black fellas.
Worthy.
So then when we came up through the industry and we're like, could we make some films? They're like, oh no, because, you know, black shows don't rate. And it's like, well, they weren't our shows.
Yes,
they were someone else's shows.
Exactly.
And when you do put people in a position of power and you do give them the creative flexibility to, you know, challenge and amuse and entertain and have these full-blooded characters, you get success. I mean, you know, look at The Sapphires, Wayne Blair's film. You know, people used to say Indigenous films will never make any money. And then Sapphire, like, kicks the world's ass, you know, and makes $15 million in Australia. So, you know, and it's not only just commercial success. So I think we've come from this tradition of ethnographic filmmaking, which has a role and is important, but is actually pretty dull. And so people think that we're coming from that. We're not. No. We're coming from this way of wanting to tell stories. And, you know, I want to speak to a wide audience. That's me. I'm like, I want to do that because it takes a lot of work to make these things. And ways you do that is with humour and with music and, you know, with those things that you do as well, you know, using humour in your work. So I think the thing I'd like to say is that actually we talk about, you know, the way people see us, but actually in Australia, I think we have more control about the representation of Indigenous people in film and television than you do in many other countries. So in the States, there's nothing like this, you know. The Maori in New Zealand have some level of, you know, autonomy, but our filmmaking is hugely more successful than there. And our theatre is really strong. So I think actually we've managed to make this huge inroads since the self-determination era of the 1970s and 80s. You know, we've put Indigenous people in the positions of power, in the controlling seat, and we've changed the perception of the way we're seen in this country. So as much as I like to talk about, you know, people don't see us this way or that way, I think we are now controlling our image so much more than we ever used to, and that's because we've fought to do so.
Okay, has that been your experience? I mean, have you had trouble bringing people on board when it comes to decision makers, or?
You know, like, not at all. It hasn't been my experience at all. There's been, you know, without being like up to anyone's like bubble, like I wouldn't have had
Up to anyone's What's it?
Like, you know, like I've
for
really like, you know, the work of Rachel, the work of Sal, like I wouldn't have had a career. It was people trusting me and giving me opportunities and then trusting me to kind of just go do stuff that was pushing boundaries. I've had, you know, for like a kind of like younger career writer, I've had so much freedom. Like it is, you know, kind of unbelievable.
And you've had three or four theatre shows at the Sydney Theatre Company?
Yeah.
Like Australia's...
Belvoir Street.
One of Australia's greatest companies
Yep.
at Belvoir Street. Like, you know, you've had more plays than many people her age. And that's because people go to see them.
Sold out.
And they're popular. You know, I try to get tickets, it's sold out.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's great.
Call her, she'll get you.
She has offered
You're gonna
to
hit
do
her
that
up.
before. Get me in.
You know, like it's definitely those inroads because of all of these other people. Like I get to take risks, and it's really then really great to see that with, you know, especially working on a show like Black Comedy where we work with new writers like yourself, Nauka, for other people to then come on and just push it even further. You know, yeah, and sometimes you do get that odd person who like has to give you notes because they're giving you a little bit of money, and sometimes their notes are really kind of like, mate, get on like, what are you talking about? And I faced that a bit with Kiki and Kitty, just a little bit, but it wasn't ever, like I had a great team of other people who kind of helped mitigate that.
Translators almost.
Yeah, yeah, well, buffers. But then it was also like, you just kind of feel sorry for those people at the end of the day because it's like you don't understand your audience and you don't understand all of these people who you could be speaking to, and the train is just moving and you're going to get left behind because you're questioning if that's still a train. That was a terrible metaphor. But like, you get what I mean?
It's okay.
I'm on board.
I always say that trains left the station.
Yeah.
But it's,
but you're so
slightly
cool
worn out.
as well.
No, it's just an old one.
Yeah, I think
So
I was
what
trying
do
to
you-
get
what
to
do you
that
think?
and didn't quite get there.
Like I'm, like whatever's before emerging, probably. I feel like I got really lucky, and I think the internet, like probably, different. Yeah, I think having a platform on the internet made it a lot easier, I think, to get a foot in the door. But these institutions are elitist. Like, you can't, not anyone just off the street can stumble in, you know? Like, there's a level of, like, education that's required. But I think that's why I love the internet, because if you've got an iPhone or whatever, you can just you can kind of do whatever you want. But these like older institutions, they are hard to get into, and arts administration is like quite difficult for a lot of people. And it's not that we're dumb; it's just there are some, it is
hoops to
there
jump
are
through.
hoops to jump through. But I think what I have found are that there is a really positive and supportive community within the black arts, and people really do support each other and get around each other's work, and really no one wants to be the only black fella in the room. So I feel like, I think once you're in, but like getting there and trying to get your foot in the door is probably a lot harder than like we realise sometimes. I feel like I got lucky.
I think you got talent, babe.
Well, yeah, you know
Do
what
you know
I
what I mean? Like, I think, like, for us, you know, there are hoops to jump through. Like if you want to get a show commissioned here, you know, you have to have a level of experience, unless it's an initiative. But we're looking for talent. We're looking for good storytellers, and it's not like you're just going to fund anyone. You know, you have to be a good story is a good story. Funny is funny, and we're trying to find that talent and then support it to go to the next level. So it is, and you know, we're dealing with government money. So I'll talk you through all of that palaver later. But, you know, it is challenging, I know, for first-timers, and I think that's why, like, Screen Australia and the Indigenous department there and here sometimes we'll do initiatives together for absolute first-timers.
Yeah.
And it is totally about talent scouting.
Yeah.
Talent scouting, picking out those people and driving them.
Like, even just particularly for young black girls and women, like, letting them know and that their stories are really important, and that, like, I think that's the first step is just really difficult to actually think that you're worthy enough to even apply for something. I think, I'm not sure.
Confidence.
I don't know if black
Yeah.
dudes have the same problem. I know white men don't.
That's a massive generalisation, though, isn't it? Like, all white men are totally confident, because I know a lot of ones who aren't.
No, but I think there are a lot of.
Yeah.
I think, I think
Some of my best friends are. What is it like? Some of my best friends are.
and some are mine.
Incompetent.
No, I think there are. I think white men are socialised to feel a lot more comfortable to apply for things and to believe that their ideas and their art is more worthy. Whereas I think if you're a black woman, you have to be often twice as, like,
Talented and fabulous, like you two.
like just to, and then, but like, I'm not,
It's not just black women either. Like,
Yeah,
the whole mainstream industry has now got this whole gender push as well to support women.
Which is great. And I think, I mean, you might say that this institution is elitist, right? But it's very true to say that, because I'm older now, just a little bit older, I've seen what's happened at the ABC, and I've seen the probably now hundreds of journalists, Indigenous journalists, who've come through here and made a profession through here. And I was a EP here when I was 1995, so I would have been 25 or something. Had a great opportunity, set up the Indigenous unit. We had Indigenous trainees through the whole organisation. I mean, you're on Triple J, you know, doing the news every morning, which I love. You know, I listen to Brooke on the way to work doing the news. I feel really proud. So I think actually we've done really well at infiltrating these institutions.
Yeah.
Although it would be great, can I say, to have an Indigenous person on the board here, because there hasn't been anyone since Neville Bonner back in, 1970.
Can I second that? And I bring it up every chance I get.